Hi, everyone. Thanks again for coming out for our seventh virtual meeting with one of the CD7 candidates. Today we have Megan O'Rourke. For those that don't know, and I don't know who doesn't know, I'm Maggie Savoca, one of the co-founders of OneNJ7. Merv is our other co-founder. We are a grassroots, all-volunteer organization committed to strengthening democracy, engaging voters, and flipping NJ7 blue. These meetings are, yep, thumbs up, key part of that effort, getting voters the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates who want to represent us in Congress. We're planning to invite all the candidates to in-person forums, several across the district, and we'll get you and them more information as we confirm them. Over the past several months, community members submitted a wide range of thoughtful questions for the candidates. We've reviewed them and condensed them down to about 8 or 9 questions that'll be asked of each candidate, the same questions in the same format. Questions will be asked by our attendees today. We'll try and keep both the questions and answers focused and respectful of time. We have an hour, and they usually don't run an hour, but that's that. Also want everybody to note that the meeting is being recorded and the full set of recordings will be made available on our YouTube channel. Before we begin the questions, we'd like to give Megan O'Rourke a few minutes to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about why she's decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you for gathering. And it's nice to have what feels like an audience to share why I'm doing this, the motivation and the passion that I have behind this effort. And so, I'm Megan O'Rourke. I grew up in Blairstown in Warren County. I am a mother of 3 adult children. I am a former farmer. I am a scientist. I'm a union leader. Um, I've spent my entire career really working to put affordable, healthy food on the table to combat climate change. And I have worked as a tenured professor and pretty extensively in the federal government. So I've worked for the US Department of Agriculture. I've worked for the US Agency for International Development, and I've even worked in Congress as a senior advisor. My most recent job was with the National Institute of Food and Agriculture with the Department of Agriculture. And I was the lead climate change scientist there. I oversaw a budget of approximately $200 million a year. And so I worked for the Department of Agriculture for this administration up until July of this year. Um, but I'd taken an oath to the Constitution, not to the whims of this president, and my work was directly under attack. So I knew I needed to do something about that, and I realized that it's very strategic. Obviously, New Jersey District 7 to flip this seat from red to blue, and I felt like I had these unique qualifications that I could bring to the table to do that, to fight back, to stand up and say, no, we're not going to be pushed around and intimidated by Trump's tactics. And so, one of the things that I'm really excited about, if I'm elected to Congress, or when I'm elected to Congress, would be that I would be the first woman in Congress with a PhD in science. So that's really exciting too.
That is exciting. Thank you so much, Megan. So we're going to move on to our questions, and Merv Turner is going to ask our first one.
Hi, Megan. It's very nice to meet you, and thank you very much for joining us. As one PhD scientist to another, I'd like to ask you what in your background and experience makes you suited to represent NJ7, and why do you think you're a better choice than the other 7 candidates or 8 candidates in the race currently?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as a scientist, I have certainly studied the race. I didn't get into it without gathering my facts and looking at what I'd be up against and trying to figure out a strategy and a winning pathway forward. I think there's a lot of things that make me different than the other candidates. I mean, I'm really from here. My family's been in Northern Jersey for generations, so I deeply feel connected to the area, to the people. Like New Jersey District 7 is my people. I think um, So when I worked in Congress, one of the things that I saw was that it was very rare for people at that level of elected position to be able to relate to the more common financial struggles of ordinary people like we have in District 7. And so, frankly, most politicians are either politically connected. Certainly, Tom Kean Jr. is a legacy member of Congress and or come from really wealthy families. I am not that. I grew up, I've used Medicaid, I've used food assistance programs. I relate to the struggles of people in the district. Um, I think that like we've mentioned already, I'm qualified in a way that the other candidates are, and I'm the only candidate who has worked recently in Congress as a senior advisor. And so not only do I have that experience, I also have the work in the federal government. So I know how to get things done. I think I can hit the ground running and can really make a difference on day one and avoid some of that learning curve that will be, necessary for other candidates. And then I am the labor choice. So I already have endorsements of multiple labor, my local union, the machinists, and on Wednesday I'm meeting with the president of my international union. So having that support. And then I'm also the environmental candidate for sure. I don't know that there's ever been somebody running for Congress who has more street cred when it comes to environmental background than I do, and that's helping to grow the momentum of the race too. I'm meeting with Vice President Al Gore in a couple weeks to talk about his work with the Climate Reality Project and potential support of my race. So
Thank you
Great.
very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Amy Heiger is going to ask our next question.
Yes, really nice to meet you. I'm a political scientist and also a former union leader in my adjunct union at Rutgers. So I really appreciate that, you're pro-labor and pro-science. So here's my question. What would your top priorities be as I think as a member of Congress, and how could you effectively pursue them as a first-term representative? And what committees would you seek to serve on?
yeah, thank you. Um, my priorities, of course, will be the priorities of people in New Jersey District 7. The healthcare, the big beautiful bill and the attacks on Medicaid, Medicare, ACA, those will be things that I'll pursue right away. And I think pursuing it right away also because this is going to quickly become a bipartisan issue as the pain hits everybody across the country and across this district. So I think that is a win that will be able to be achieved rather quickly. The defense of science, the cuts, nearly 50% cut to science, this assault on facts and data, those are things that I'm passionate about. And again, I think that's a bipartisan issue. It's an issue that fuels the economy in District 7. I mean, we're largely a high-tech economy with the healthcare sector, the telecommunications, and so those are areas that I would work on. Was there a part B to that question?
I mean, the committees that you would pursue.
Yeah, one of the committees that I think I'm very qualified to bring wins back to New Jersey 7 would be actually the House Ag Committee. So that is a committee that I backstopped in 2023. And people think that that's about, just farmers. And actually, there's a farm bill that is due to be passed. It is a couple years overdue. It's likely going to be kicked down. The can will be kicked down the road until the 2026 congressional cycle. And that is an over $1 trillion bill that's going to be passed. So that is about food assistance. That is about, the farm community, some of the rural parts of the district. It's about rural development, money back in the district to help alleviate some of the housing affordability crisis. And so this is a huge bill that I could work on and have some real impacts on because I already know that 1,000-page bill inside and out.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Joan Peters has the next question.
Good morning. As you know, '07 is a district with 20,000 more Republicans than Democrats. The past two candidates have been unsuccessful, and much of it, to me, seems to be based on Kane's name recognition. What's your plan for winning the election in '07, and what would you do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a natural blue wave because people are fed up. And I think the longer that Tom Kean Jr. is in office, the more that people see that he is um, not the member that they hope, not the same as his father. And so I think there is going to be a natural push that maybe wasn't there the last couple of election cycles. But I also think that, I bring something different and I think refreshing, right? I grew up in the rural part of the district. It's very easy for me to um, relate. Former farmer, I get my hands dirty. Hunterdon, Warren County, Sussex County, that is a very natural fit for me. But as a labor leader, I think I also relate well to the people in the more urban parts of the districts. I deeply respect the trades. I deeply respect the people who, make our lives function and go unappreciated largely. And so I think people feel and connect to me on that level. I also have had the privilege in my life to have an elite education. I can move between different worlds. I can feel comfortable in that boardroom, in that more maybe higher socioeconomic parts of the district that I would also represent. And I certainly I don't live in an echo chamber. I grew up with, and I have family that are across the aisle. And so I think that I connect and I respect and I relate to all sorts of people. And yeah, we have more Republicans, but we actually have more unaffiliated voters who are just, when I talk with them, they're just sort of fed up and they're on the sidelines because they just see most politicians as business as usual. And I think that I have the ability to show that I am not, yes, I've been in the system, but not as a political insider. I've been in the system because I applied for a job like everybody else. I went through an interview process and I got the job because I was qualified, not because I'm friends of the friends who get appointments.
Great answer. Thanks.
Hi, Megan. I'm Monica with Warren County Action Together.
Yes, hi, Monica.
Welcome.
Again.
And my question is, as an individual representative, what would or could you do to protect New Jersey's immigrants from being arrested, detained, imprisoned, deported without due process or criminal convictions? Without criminal convictions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that we're seeing on the news are deplorable. I mean, one of the most bipartisan things that everybody can agree on is, first of all, take off those dang masks. If people are proud of what they're doing, and I don't think they are, I think take the masks off, be held accountable for the actions that you're doing. So I think that is an area that actually both Democrats, Republicans, we can all agree on is that, if you're going to be out there supposedly enforcing the laws, then we should be able to identify who you are. And then second of all, I think, I want my office to be a one-stop shop for information, for, know your rights. What are your resources? What are access to legal resources to defend yourselves? I want people to know that they're safe with my office. I want people to feel like constituent services to me are really important. When I worked in Congress, I see that there's the national part of the work that you do, but there's a constituent part of the work that you do. And you can always make headway with the constituent work. You can always make people feel that they are seen and heard and respected and defended in their local offices. And I mean, I think that's a huge contrast to what we have with Tom Kean Jr. right now, who just is this absentee representative. And um, those are the short-term things, but I think, comprehensive immigration reform is what we need to do. And again, I think the fact that immigration has been kicked around as this political soccer ball for, we had comprehensive immigration reform on the table in 2013. We had it again in 2024, and it was put aside clearly for political reasons. Like we need to get beyond that and move forward because, I mean, morally, we shouldn't be doing this. Economically, let's get real about the economic contributions of the diversity of people that we have in this district. And so, yeah.
Thanks so much. Dan Murphy, you're up with the next question.
Hello, Megan. Mine is what sources of campaign funds do you expect to tap? You mentioned Union and Al Gore, and organizations, or aside from grassroots individuals. And would you be seeking, and to what extent relying on endorsements from the county party organizations, the Democratic Party?
Yeah. A year ago today, if you'd have said, Megan, you'd be running for Congress, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And so I have had to learn this campaign process mostly this year. And what is very clear is that money is very important in this process. And, I think a lot of people are sick and tired of it, sick and tired of the dirty money that are in politics. So if I were to be elected, certainly I will work very hard to tackle some campaign finance reform laws. But in the meantime, I need to be able to get elected and to understand the reality of that. And I'm not naive. So, the first quarter numbers are coming out. There's a New Jersey Globe article. I think I did well. I brought in $250,000 in my first 7 weeks of campaigning. And I've been doing that from tapping into my national base of support. So federal workers, scientists around the country, the environmental community, the labor community, the agricultural community. Like I said, I'm working very stridently with the labor movement and getting those endorsements. And like I said, I'm going down a meeting with Al Gore in a couple weeks, and there's a lot of untapped potential. I think, the climate change movement, there hasn't been somebody like me running for Congress, taking up that torch of, yes, I know how to get things done about climate change. I actually understand climate change, and I understand it in a way that I can take it out of this partisan politics and actually work on it. So money is important, and I am dedicated to doing what it takes. Oh, and in terms of the party endorsement, I mean, we all know the line is no longer what it was. I think that provides an opportunity for somebody like me, so I'm excited about that. But at the same time, I absolutely respect the work that party leaders do in the state with organization. I'm building relationships. I would love and appreciate the endorsements if they can come my way. And so working on that avenue.
Great, thank you.
I think I'm up next.
Yes, Lisa, thanks for paying attention. I was paying attention to something else.
Okay. Hi, Megan. I'm Lisa Vandiver. I'm with Indivisible Rahway. You've kind of touched on some of this already, but like Rahway in the redistricting was thrown in with this wildly disparate district. We used to be tied in with Newark and Hudson County. But how would you present yourself to voters across the district, from both urban areas to wealthy suburbs to rural towns? What policies and message do you believe could bring these disparate communities together to support your candidacy?
Yeah, well, I was just in Rahway on Saturday doing a labor march out there, and so I got to canvass some of the neighborhoods there. So
great.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I was saying, similar. I have both that labor background. I think that connects me to broadly across the district, especially over in Union County. I have the agricultural and the rural roots in the western part of the district. I have, I think the climate change work, the science work that I've done really connects me with some of the, the wealthier communities in the district also. So I present myself, I think, as somebody who can really relate like I said, I relate to economic struggles. I relate to the aspirations of my family. I relate to the struggles. I think going through that arc of raising children, from very young, obviously, now they're adults, and seeing that, it brings a humility to me. I certainly will can never have the hubris of knowing that I'm always right on everything. That I think that brings an empathy, a willingness to compromise and explore and reflect on myself and where I can improve and grow and learn and connect with people. And so hopefully I come across as pretty down to earth, because I think that I am. I think I'm a very approachable and relatable person, and I hope that attracts people to who I am and what I bring to the table.
Great. Thank you.
So I'm up next. Megan, what would you do to help stand for the people who are going to lose Medicaid, SNAP, and other benefits in the district?
Yeah, I mean, this one is super personal to me. Like I said, I've been on Medicaid. I have family members on Medicaid. The big beautiful bill, one of the things that's so insidious specifically about Medicaid is that it's supposed to go into effect after the midterm elections. I mean, that is not a mistake. That was a very strategic endeavor, so that right now we have Democrats who are complaining this is happening, but we don't actually have the pain being felt yet, and the anger that is inevitably going to hit when many Republicans are going to lose their health care coverage. What they did was try to, which is ironic because supposedly a party that likes less regulation and less bureaucracy has added so much regulation and bureaucracy to the process of getting Medicaid, that people are going to be kicked off to try to have to recertify that you're volunteering every 20 weeks and recertify every 6 months. I mean, this is not realistic for a lot of the people who are on Medicaid, and in fact creates barriers of bureaucracy that makes it more difficult to work, to get your educations, to get to create circumstances in your life where you can get off Medicaid. And so that's a long story. And even right now, when I left my federal job, I had to go on the ACA. I see very clearly that ACA coverage is not great. And not only that, in December is going to become even less great when my premiums double. And so, fighting for that, fighting for healthcare reform is something that is extremely important to me. And unlike so many politicians, I have seen every side of it, from Medicaid to ACA to having some of the best coverage through being a professor and being a federal employee and everything in between. But even under the best of circumstances, our medical coverage system is crappy in this country.
Hear, hear. Thank you. BC Conley has a question.
Good morning, Megan. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for throwing your hat in the ring in this endeavor. I respect the hell out of people who take this on, knowing it's going to be painful and frustrating and all of that, but I do appreciate your trying. My question is, if you win this race, or when you win this race, and the Democrats take control of Congress, what actions would you favor to reverse Trump policies? Would they include impeachments and removal of some Trump administration officials, and of course Trump himself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very practical politician, I would say. And so my energy will be focused on bringing back wins to New Jersey District 7, and to do things that are going to substantially help with people's lives. And I think the rolling back the big beautiful bill, rolling back the tariffs, things that are increasing the price of living every day for people, those are going to be my top priorities. I think when it comes to what are we going to do about, I mean, what's going on, the threats to democracy in this country, those are huge motivations for me getting into this race, getting off the sidelines, getting out of my comfort zone. I didn't get pushed out by this administration. I had a lot of seniority in my job. I'm in the Department of Agriculture, which is considered a not a democratic department, and so we haven't had firings in my agency. I chose to leave because I see that change needs to happen in this country and that I can be a force for good and a force for change and something different than people have seen in the political world. And so, yeah, I will fight to roll back, big, beautiful bill priorities, the tariffs, and then I will follow the leadership of my of the Democrats and follow the data and evidence that may or may not be presented depending on how it goes down a potential impeachment process.
Thank you.
Okay, Monica Scott's gonna, yeah, I think you're on mute. I see your lips moving, Monica.
Am I still on mute?
Nope, now you're good.
Okay. Megan, would you push for improving U.S. relations with NATO, the EU, and other allies despite Trump's administration's disdain for those allies and right now his perceived successes?
Goodness, yes. So I worked for USAID. I mean, the premise of what I worked on and what I believe deeply in is international cooperation. I worked on the UN international climate change negotiations. We have had success for a decade with our tried and true partners in NATO and in Europe. I think those are relationships that we understand, we build upon, we continue to be a leader in the world. I mean, uh, I feel a level of shame when there's people in other countries who now look at America and look at our leadership and find it laughable. So while I will applaud wins, I'm not going to undermine. I mean, we saw the exchange of hostages last night. I mean, that was a joyous occasion, and I applaud that. But I don't think that that means we're throwing our existing allies and relationships under the bus in any way. So I'm 100% pro international diplomacy and relations, rebuilding USAID, rebuilding the respect that we have had in the world.
Great, thank you. So Megan, that wraps up our predetermined questions. If it's okay with you, I'll ask if anybody has any follow-up questions, clarification you're looking for.
Oh, it was very helpful.
Well, and thank you all again for spending the time here today. I appreciate it.
Okay. So again, once again, I think it was a great virtual meeting to have you come out and explain who you are and some of what you'd like to do for the constituents of CD7. And once we get it up on YouTube, I'll send it to you. We'll put it out, and we'll also send it out to our members to view as well. So we all wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to seeing you out there on the trail.
Joan, I think, has a question.
I was just gonna, I thought of this while Maggie was talking, of course. You mentioned constituent services, and that is one of the things that Tom Kean brags about nonstop.
Yes.
So how do you counter that kind of thing? Because my counter is that's your job. I mean, you're not supposed to be bragging about it. That's what you're here for, is to bring back money to the district. So, but I do think that that's what keeps a lot of people, he has a lot of people supporting him because of that. So I just had a meeting last week, and it was not with him, of course. I have no idea where he is. But his office staff, who basically have taken on the lying position of everything. He just told so many lies. I finally got up and said, I'm finished. So anyway, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to his newsletter and I see the half-truths there. Also, the big, beautiful bill now being renamed as the Reconciliation package, assuming that readers just don't understand what he's talking about because the Big Beautiful Bill under that name is so universally unpopular. I talk with friends that I grow up with in Blairstown, for example, who are Republicans, and I ask, hey, what is it that you like about Tom Kane Jr.? And I would say most people are just like, huh? I don't know. His dad's great.
Right. Yes.
So,
Yes. He drops the junior whenever he can.
right. I think that while he might say his constituent services are good in his newsletter, I don't know that there's really proof of that from his constituents. And so, it's very important to me if when I'm elected that anybody who comes into my office will feel like I will provide the best quality service to them, regardless of their political affiliation. I believe that, we should be feeling like family. There should be a closeness. There should be a respect there. And certainly, I mean, when you're a Democrat and you walk into his office for constituent services, you feel right away that, the staff isn't going to respect you. I mean, I write letters to him and get these form letters that don't address the issue. And like you said, are half truths. And so I think being honest, being available, being respectful, that's what I want to bring to constituent services.
Thank you. Sorry, Maggie.
Not at all. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you
Again,
so much. I loved hearing what you had to say. So I'm just going to say that it's so great to hear so many fantastic people running, and you're just amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's a journey. Life's a journey, right? And what is more important than being able to serve our country? And I feel like I've had that ethos throughout my career, and this is another step of serving in a new way. And I think in a really important way that our country is at a crossroads, and the violence that we see that people are feeling and manifesting in all these horrible, unproductive ways. I feel like, this is a way to focus our energy and to create a clear path forward of, what? We change things, we flip the house, we stop rubber stamping Trump's agenda, and we do this in a way that upholds our values as Americans, upholds the constitutions, and we can have change. I know there's a lot of fear out there. There's fear that in 2026, we're not going to have a democracy. We're not going to have elections. I literally talked to somebody who asked me if I was ready to get shot or thrown in jail. And I was like, well, of course I'm not ready for that, but I'm not going to not run because something could happen. And, I actually feel incredibly grateful that my kids are grown up. They're not here. They're not at the center of it. They're a little bit buffered. And that, my life circumstances right now is this can be 100% of my focus to get this done because we need to flip this seat blue.
I think we're all so grateful that that's where you find yourself and that we found ourselves here together. So again, everybody have a great day. Thanks again, Megan, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Maggie, for putting this together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That was great.